Now, I don't know about you. If someone served that to me for Christmas, I think I'd be looking for another invite next year. Oh yeah. It's Christmas time and I've got a show-stopping dessert that you are gonna absolutely love. It's a cherry and berry chocolate ice cream cake. It is so delicious and beautiful and indulgent, but the best thing, after a big Chrissy meal, this won't leave you feeling stuffed because it's an ice cream cake, so it's kind of refreshing. Here's how you make it. Preset your oven to 175 and then first job is to make your cake. Mix your flour and your bicarb soda. Mix those dry ingredients together. In another bowl, you're going to combine your sugar, a couple of eggs, vanilla extract, and some oil. Give it a whisk. Go ahead and add half of your flour. And the reason you just add half first is just so it doesn't get too thick, because you don't want any lumps. Add in half of your buttermilk, give that a whisk, and then you add the rest of your flour, and lastly, the rest of that buttermilk. Making sure there's no lumps in your batter. So pop your saucepan onto a medium heat, put the water in, and then once it comes up to a simmer, mix it with the cocoa. Make sure there's no lumps, and then just let it cool. So once your cocoa's cool, it'll take about 10 minutes. What you're gonna do is just add that to your cake batter. Perfect. Right. Our cake batter is made, so all we have to do is bake it. Now, I've got 2 different sized tins, and I've gone ahead and greased them. Grab yourself another bowl, pour in 600 grams. That goes into here. And then the rest goes into your round tin. And you're ready to bake. This is gonna take 25 minutes, and this is gonna take 175 degrees. We'll keep our eye on them. It's beautiful when they come out. Now, the way you know they're done is if it just has just a little spring back, so you can sort of just push down on it, just so that there's nothing that can go wrong, is you get the rack and you stick it on top, pull your towel out and remove your pan. Same with your round. If you do have to peel the paper off the cake, just be gentle when you do it, because there's a possibility that it'll tear that cake. So just sort of take your time. Gorgeous. And next we're going to make our cherry sauce. Pop a medium-sized saucepan onto sort of a moderate heat. Go ahead and add your cherries that have already been pitted and cut in half, a little lemon juice and some sugar, and you bring that to a simmer. Once your cherries have had that 8 or 10 minutes of just gently bubbling away, I've actually turned it off and just let it cool, because you can see the cherries are perfectly soft. Now make sure you let it cool just a little before you go ahead and blend it, because we're going to turn this into a beautiful pureed sauce. Okay, pop your lid on and hit the button. So that's been blending for about 60 seconds until it's really nice and smooth. While you wait for your cherry sauce to cool down, what we're gonna make is the frosting. So icing sugar goes in the bottom, butter goes in next, and then your almond extract. Stick that into your stand mixer. So once that butter starts to get incorporated into the icing sugar, just gently increase the speed. Okay, so time to add the flavor, which is the cherry sauce. So get 2 tablespoons and just pour that straight in. Now we all know that cherry can stain, so just go back to a nice slow speed to start. Then you give it a good mix, making sure you incorporate all of those bits down the bottom. We've got a beautifully well-mixed frosting, and it tastes really good. The next thing you need to do, chill the rest of your sauce until you need it, and then we're gonna start working on our cake. We're actually gonna make the outside of the ice cream cake right now, and here's how you do it. Get yourself that beautiful big flat cake. It is quite thin, you'll notice. Take a piece of baking paper, stick that onto a cutting board, pull your cake down, and we're gonna trim 1.5 centimeters off all edges of the cake, and the best way to do it is to measure it. If you're looking for a showstopper dessert, this is it. It is super impressive, but it does take just a little bit more work than your average dessert. From the edge, you measure 1.5 centimeters. Make sure you line it up so you cut in a nice straight edge and remove that 1.5 centimeters. Do the same at the other end. And the reason you cut 1.5 centimeters off every side is because, of course, the texture is going to be a little different on the edges, because it's going to get a little crisper through that cooking process. You should have a beautifully rectangle piece of cake. Then you take your frosting and stick it right on to your cake. And using a spatula or an offset palette knife like I have, you're just going to spread it around to every edge. Now you could cut it, but the little secret is you can see how sticky and easy to spread the frosting is. Well, guess what it's going to do when you try and cut it? It's going to stick to your knife. So the little cheat there is to just pop it in the fridge. Okay, the frosting has set. So again, this is a really cool little tip, this baking paper. I can't tell you, trying to do it without is really quite difficult, so that makes your life much easier. But you can tell by just touching that frosting, and you'll see how it's not sticking to my finger at all. Imagine doing that before we popped it in the fridge and set it. Get your ruler back out, just measure it. I know you think I'm crazy. So we're gonna go 10.5 centimeters, which is right there. So 33 centimeters, we're gonna go 16.5. And then you just go straight through, go underneath that cake, set it right on top, and then rinse and repeat. You do the same thing 4 times. So even though we're going to use this for a slightly different reason, that's how you make a layer cake. Pick it back up and pop that back into your refrigerator again, just to let it set one more time. Okay, we have this beautiful cake. I'm just going to lift it up, get rid of my tray again. You go straight through and then remove your knife. And this way, you get this really beautiful sandwich effect. Gorgeous. Carrying on with this precise way of doing things, we're gonna cut our slices 1.5 centimeters. The best way, I think, to do that is to go ahead and lay your ruler over the top. And go to 7.5, go to 9. Cut your slices and just go straight down. And that is what you put on the inside of your cake tin. So now you know why all of these slices have to be kind of precise, right? Because you don't want thin slices and thick slices. You want them to be all relatively uniform. Lucky last, give it a nice old push all the way around. Don't forget, we've still got this round guy. Again, you can take that and you can just drop it straight in. Or you can do a thing called torting the cake, or cutting it, cutting the top off just to make it a little thinner, because of course any cake will always have a little bit of a rise to it. And what you do, just start working, let the serration of the blade do the work. You're not using much force at all, and then you just go all the way through and just bring it straight on over and drop it right in the middle. Just using the tip of that knife, you just kind of just gently help it down. Okay, so now you have that perfect vessel to fill all of our delicious ice cream in the center. This goes back in the fridge, and then we work on the ice cream. This is ice cream, ladies and gentlemen, and what we do here is we just mix it and get it to that sort of perfect consistency. Okay, let's go and get the base. You want to work relatively quickly. You're going to use about half of that ice cream. Pop that straight in to your cake pan. I can't even think of the words. It's mesmerizing. It really is. Just like that. Get yourself a little bit more of that cherry sauce. Spoon it around. So I just marble that through using my butter knife. And it gives that kind of ripple effect, which is really pretty. Sprinkle over the top strawberries, some blueberries, just a bit more ice cream. So we're just layering this up. A few more of those berries. I'm pushing some of those berries into the ice cream so they don't stick out too much. Give yourself another beautiful ripple of that sauce. Just using your butter knife. I have a tiny bit more ice cream to finish this off with. And then it goes back into the freezer. It needs about 4 hours to be frozen solid, and depending on your freezer, just make sure it's really nice and firm before you remove it from the pan, because then it's going to be time to serve. In she goes. Of course, you can leave it overnight if you prefer. Here it is. We're going to leave it for just a moment before we start removing the tin, because we want it to soften ever so slightly. Now in this bowl, I've thrown a couple of tablespoons of sugar. We're going to macerate some berries, and all that means is you're going to mix the berries with some sugar, and then you just toss it together like that, and then you just sit them aside for just 5 or 10 minutes, and you'll see a little bit of that natural juice will start to release. Okay, unveiling our masterpiece. Talk about a showstopper. anyone that comes to your place for Christmas is going to be like, how on earth did you make that gorgeous cake? Make sure you serve it like this. Let everyone see it in all of its glory before you go ahead and cut it, and then you'll cut it and everyone will be very, very happy with how it tastes. The last thing, of course, that you're going to do is take a little of that cherry sauce and drizzle. Very Merry Christmas. Oh yeah, yum.